Good morning. This is Elle Martinez. And today I'm bringing you another interview as part of a series we're going to have on the podcast next month called Dealing with Your Finances During the Coronavirus. There's a lot of questions. Many of us are affected, whether it's directly or indirectly, with the stay at home orders. And so we've had to scramble and adjust finances to ride things out. And so on the podcast, I'm polishing things up, getting all the resources ready so we can have that scheduled out. But for now, what I'm doing on this YouTube channel is sharing the interviews very lightly edited so you can get these key takeaways right away. So I've been interviewing different people that are not only experts in their field, but they've also had to deal with situations where there was something big to overcome. And that's the case with today's interview. I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Jeff Anzalone. He's a dentist over in Louisiana. And his story was interesting to me because years ago, he had to deal with a huge crisis. He had over $300,000 of student loan, thought things were going to be going well. He had just gotten a job offer. But 2 weeks before he graduated, that job offer fell through, had a wife, 2-month-old baby. What was he going to do? So in this interview, we're going to be talking about how he was able to come up with a plan with so little time and to build not just a scratch, but to get out of debt and to change and transform, their family's finances. So I hope this not only gives you some practical takeaways, but also some encouragement. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk about something that I think is important with a lot of us going through kind of unprecedented times. We're each at different points in our financial journey. And when you reached out to me, I thought this was very interesting because you yourself have gone through a big change financially. So thank you for, coming and kind of sharing your story today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm glad to help any way I can.
Yeah. And I saw the number itself was huge, but it makes sense with your background is that you started in $300,000 of debt. And I know much of it was probably student loans, but were there any other debts that you were carrying as well?
Well, this was actually 20 years ago. So you can imagine what the student debt load is now. It's a much more. And this was a public dental school at LSU. So the private dental schools, medical schools, a lot of the private, professional schools are much more. I mean, I see some people on some of these forums that are asking practitioners, hey, I'm 600,000 in debt. Should I go another 300,000 in debt to do a residency? And it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yes, there were other debts. Unfortunately, we had a job offer that fell through, but 2 months prior to that, we had purchased a home. Now, you got to remember, this was before the 2008 crash.
Yeah.
So we purchased a home. I called my friend I went to high school with. His dad is a banker. He said, "Oh, yeah, I know the group that you're going to go into practice with. We'll make this happen. Just sign this one piece of paper and that's it. House is yours." That's literally all we did. And it was an interest-only loan. So between student loans and that, it was over $500,000 total.
I mean, that's a mountain of debt. And obviously, with your profession, it's maybe different, but still the idea of it's hard to see light at the end of the tunnel. But I kind of want to talk to you like when you were at that moment and you mentioned you had a job offer and it fell through. Can you remember, what you felt like, what was going through your mind? Because you were married, correct, right, at that time? And what was the situation there at home?
Yeah, we'd been married for about 3 years, 3.5 years, and we had a 2-month-old. So I had had two other mouths to feed besides my own. So it was, I think the first thought that went through my mind when I was told that the job offer that fell through, I kind of started looking around going, am I on candid camera? Is this a joke? I mean, just I think the main thing that kept going through my mind was uh, kind of, I wouldn't say hopelessness, but a lot of helplessness, just
Yeah.
helpless. What am I going to do now? Because we're not
Mhm.
taught how to start a business, start a practice. You get out of law school or any professional school,
Mhm.
you learn your trade, and you go in with a group to help
Mhm.
teach you that. And I think that was the biggest thing going through my mind is how, with all this debt that I had, how was I going to repay it back, not knowing how to run a business.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of can feel what you were going through at that time because it is difficult. Like, how do I carve this plan out? What was your motivation for getting out of debt? I mean, besides, I know, making the payments and everything, but was there some point or a push you felt like, I don't want to have this load around me?
One word: fear.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And that that was a point in my life that I really shifted my mindset about
Mm-hmm.
money and how I thought about money. Because before, I was thinking, hey, I'm going to get out, I'm going to get a good job, good income. I'm not really worried about paying off these loans because I'm going to have a decent income.
Yeah.
To, hey, everything just got pulled out from under me, like the a lot of people are experiencing with the coronavirus
Mm-hmm.
crisis, depending on when you're listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
So that that just kind of goes to show you that things can be taken away from you very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that was the catalyst to really push me forward to get going.
Yeah. I know sometimes it would be ideal if we can have these changes and pivot points like kind of like on our own, but I've seen a lot of situations where life kind of puts us in that position and we have to make a decision like, do I want to keep going or do I need to kind of pivot or redirect where I'm going? But you eventually became debt free, Jeff. So I mean, congratulations. That is amazing.
Thank you.
um, what was the hardest part of your journey? Because I know that wasn't an overnight thing. Like you weren't debt free then. What changes did you and your wife have to make with your finances?
Well, we had to start paying a lot more attention to them and where the
Hmm.
money was going, and budgeting. And I'm a very visual person, so we
Hmm.
bought one of those cheap dry erase boards,
Hmm.
and followed the Dave Ramsey plan at that time.
Yeah.
Just listed the debt, smallest to largest. The smallest one that we had, I think I had 6 or 7 different student loans.
Yeah.
So I just picked the smallest one, and then once that went away, it just kind of got that snowball going, and made me want to start trying to put more money to the next one and next one, and
Mhm.
so on and so forth.
Yeah. So, what was the hardest change in your budget, and what was the easiest change?
The let's see, the I would say the hardest change
Hmm.
was we couldn't do things that we had planned on doing or were kind of
Hmm.
starting to do, like eating out as much, and certainly
Hmm.
not vacationing. And we had to put off self-sacrifice. you
Hmm.
know the easiest thing was whenever, as I mentioned previously,
Hmm.
whenever things started going and snowballing, that just made us want to get involved with it more. And hey, we just paid off this one. Do you think we can put any more extra money at the next one? And then so on and so forth. So that once it gets going, it's pretty exciting seeing those numbers, come down and you're paying off that debt.
Yeah, I do think that Dave Ramsey, his system works with that debt snowball because of those psychological wins and doing it based from lowest to largest loans.
Hmm.
Was there any kind of like, during a milestone, would you celebrate or how did you guys keep yourselves motivated besides seeing the numbers go down?
Yeah, occasionally we
Mhm.
would go out to eat or something like
Mhm.
that, but that we lived, and we still continue to live frugally. But during
Mhm.
those times, it was really lean. But when you're first married,
Mhm.
and you have a 2-month old, you really don't need much, so it really wasn't too tough as it would be now with 2 teenagers, and they have all of their iPhones and
Yeah.
iPads and all that stuff. So it gets a whole lot more expensive than when they were a lot smaller.
Yes, most definitely. I appreciate you, sharing your story, Jeff. I know there are listeners right now, like they're going through this pandemic, like the financial stress of just staying at home and maybe not being able to work or bring in the income like they want to. But they know things have got to change and they want to change their finances. So, what would you say to them? As far as like first steps, what should they start doing now to set themselves up when things hopefully return back to normal soon?
Well, as now that we're
Mhm.
still in the middle of this crisis, I'm not able to work at all either.
Mhm.
It's been almost 2 months, so I've been just doing things to help with self improvement because
Mhm.
I don't think you can make a better investment than on yourself. Because as you improve, your income is going to improve. So that would be my recommendation for now. And then just I have to answer things based on my personal experience. So
Mhm.
I would encourage people to look at those baby steps that we went through, the 7 baby steps, and
Mhm.
that you're gonna have some people say, well, that doesn't make sense. You should look at the one with the highest interest rate first. But if you have a $2,000 loan and then you have that's maybe 7% interest,
Mhm.
and then you have a $30,000 loan which is 12% interest. Well, it's just hard to get going paying off
Yeah.
that $30,000 loan. But once you get that $2,000 loan, and things start to happen.
Yeah, I think whatever method couples decide, it's important to be honest with yourself. Which way is going to keep us motivated? Because it really is about consistency. Those you might have some big wins up front, but it's the family, the couple that can keep it consistent, that can pay off that debt. So, Jeff, you have a lot of great takeaways, and there's so much more to your story that we can't share right now on the podcast. But if anyone's listening right now and they want to reach out and find out more about what you're doing now, uh, where can they best reach you?
Probably the best place would be the website. It's
Mhm.
I wanted to get debtfreedoctor.com, but that
Yeah.
domain was already taken, so I had to settle for debtfreedr.com.
Okay. And guys, I'll have this in the show notes so you can click over as well as some of my favorite articles from there. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you, Elle.